Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we are going to start. I'm going to start with Mangalacharan and then we will go to the text. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadhavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So we are starting the 12th chapter today. So before we go any further, I'll just give you the breakup of this chapter, how this chapter is organized. So in first seven shlokas, Krishna declares emphatically that Bhakti Yoga is superior to impersonalism. And then from 8 to 12, Krishna describes different stages of progressive devotional service. And 13 to 20, we get to see Krishna's mind. We get a glimpse of what Krishna likes and what he doesn't like. So we get a glimpse of what qualities endear one to him. And it's very important because when we come to know from Krishna's perspective what he likes in his devotee, what makes a devotee dear to him, then we can strive towards that. We can understand, okay, that Krishna likes this, so maybe I should strive for that. And we saw in the 11th chapter, the 54th and 55th verse, they both talked about devotional service. How like Krishna can be known by devotional service. So that's why now we see this 12th chapter is titled as devotional service. Yeah. So in the previous chapter, the 11th chapter, Krishna discussed universal form. Now Arjun wants him to shift his focus to devotional service. So that is why Arjun will start asking questions. So let's start. So I'll read the first shloka. Arjuna vacha evam satata yukta ye bhaktastam paryupasate ye chapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Yeah. Somebody please read.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested.
Thank you. So this is Arjun has asked similar kind of questions before also. So we see that, and this is the final time he's going to ask this because he just wants to be very sure and not for himself. Like we heard that Arjun, parampara is starting from Arjun, so he wants to make sure that people who will follow him or follow his example are not bewildered. They know for sure what is to be done, who's to be worshipped, and also because Arjun himself is a devotee who has personal relationship with the Lord. So he also wants to kind of figure out, where do I stand? Am I at the higher stage or am I at the lower stage? And also Arjun wants to kick out impersonalism or monism from Bhagavad Gita once and for all. So this is he's asking in such straight terms this question. So let's see Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada says generally the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, the other one is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. And the impersonalist also engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga or devotional service to him is the highest of all. It is the most direct and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. And now Prabhupada gives a summary of what we have studied so far. He says, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not the material body. He is a spiritual spark, and the absolute truth is the spiritual whole. In the seventh chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. That is, a jiva should serve Krishna. Then again in the eighth chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And at the end of the sixth chapter, the Lord clearly said that of all yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. So we come across so many Nirakarvadis, right? Who maintain that ultimately the highest is Nirakar. So that's why Prabhupada is commenting that even if it is very clear from Bhagavad Gita, but there are still people who want to divert our attention to impersonalism. Then Prabhupada says they prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reason of the senses, beyond the reach of the senses, and is not manifest. And so factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he's clarifying his own position because he's attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best because he could thus understand all other forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth. So it's a very important question, especially for those people who are confused or who are attached to impersonal manifestation of the Lord. It's a very good question to actually clarify. What does Krishna think? According to Krishna, which is best? Right? So now Arjun is doing that. Now let's go to text 2. This is a small chapter with only 20 shlokas, and the purports are also not crazy long. But whatever Prabhupada has given in his purports is like brilliance, brilliant, brilliant. So we'll try to read almost all the purports fully. Okay? Text 2. श्रीभगवानुवाच मायावेश्य मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेतास्तमे युक्ततमा मतः.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect." Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so now he's given his viewpoint very clearly that those who fix their minds on my personal form are considered by me to be most perfect. It doesn't get better than that. They are the most perfect. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, in answer to Arjun's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, and sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. So, normally, when we hear samadhi, we think somebody is sitting in trance, and meditating on something. But Prabhupada is making it very clear that for a devotee, that's not samadhi. For a devotee, constant engagement in serving Krishna is samadhi. When you do whatever you do it for pleasure of Krishna, you do it as an offering to Krishna. That is samadhi. So Prabhupada is saying that he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Text 3 and 4. Yeah, maybe somebody can now start reading the. Please, somebody read the shlokas.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
ये त्वमक्षरं निर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गम अचिन्तयं च कूटस्थम् अचलं ध्रुवम् तन्नियम् इन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र सम्बुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रतः. Translation. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone. Such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me.
So note what Krishna is saying, that they have to do all this, they have to meditate on me like this, and then they at last achieve me. It's not easy to achieve me by this process. And the acharyas make it clear that when Krishna is saying at last achieve me, what does it mean? It means that they merge into my Brahma Jyoti, they attain Brahma realization, not my personal abode. That if they attain at all, it is Brahma Jyoti, it is not Krishna's personal abode. Because one cannot reach Krishna's personal abode without what?
Bhakti.
Without bhakti, without being a devotee. One can't reach. Right? So Prabhupada says that those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal, Sri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudev is all. Vasudev Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. This is Bahunanam Janmanamante. This is that verse. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches a Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise, there is no perfect realization. Often, there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the supersoul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very, very difficult. So Krishna is saying that ultimately, in long run, they will come to me, and not my personal abode. They will attain my Brahmajyoti. But first of all, they will not attain the perfect position. They will attain Brahmajyoti. And on top of all, this kind of a practice is very difficult for a common man. It's very difficult because it's not natural. It's going to be very difficult. It's not easy. And also it's very risky. You may or may not reach the goal. But bhakti is very, very safe. You know, bhakti is very safe. How? Why do you think bhakti is safe? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble
Please
obeisance.
accept mine.
So, Mataji, whatever activities we do in bhakti, it will be an eternal asset for us. And if it is not completed in this birth, so in the next birth, whenever we start our bhakti, it starts from the same stage where we left earlier.
Yes, we'll
So
learn this
it's
in
a permanent asset for us.
yeah, sixth chapter. Krishna says, right, that in second also he says there's no loss or diminution. Okay, what else? Why is it a safe process? This is a primary
There is
reason.
no risk involved in this, Hare Krishna. There is no
Why?
risk
That's my question. Why do we say that there's no risk involved? It's safe.
because we constantly think of Krishna and we are always guided in Krishna consciousness through our gurus, through Vaishnavas at every step. So we are always in the association of pure devotees or who are the sadhakas even. So we are never alone in this process. Whereas in Ashtanga Yoga, on that, if we use pratyahar or we are doing more of controlling of our senses, sometimes it is there. One can control his senses, but it is not always possible.
Yeah, thank you. So the other kinds of yoga, Gyan Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, there are solitary processes that you go alone in the, you alone go to the forest or you alone do it. So there is no association of devotees which kind of help us to go along. Yes, Vaibhavi?
Krishna Mataji, Mataji, Krishna himself is saying that one who surrenders unto me, that devotee is never perishes. So when Lord is confirming these things, definitely it's the best path to
So there
choose.
is Krishna's guarantee. So that's why it is safe. Yes. Any more reasons why bhakti is a safe process? Somebody? Yes, Prabhu.
So, Mataji, this is being explicitly mentioned by Srila Prabhupada as well to a reporter, wherein the reporter asked him, what if Krishna won't exist at the end of your life? So Prabhupada said that we are still happy that we are chanting, eating, feasting, and doing dancing and all. But Prabhupada asked the reporter again, what happens if the Krishna literally exists at the end of your life? So it was a blank statement for the reporter. So if Prabhupada guarantees it, so
And also, it means that it's a very joyful process. It's a joyful process. It is very easy to practice because it's so joyful. Yeah, Daya.
And it is very practical in today's time. Like other yogas are difficult for Kali Yuga, but bhakti, like as a process, it is the way Prabhupada has taught us. It's like something which can be performed. So
Yes.
According
you.
to me, it's a very easy process.
It's very natural and very practical. Thank
Yes,
you.
very practical.
Thank you. Jyoti, you had your hand up?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble
Please
obeisances.
accept mine.
One more is like the more we advance, the more we feel connected. So we know we are in the correct path. So the more we advance, we feel, and the blissfulness increases day by day. So it is not a trap like okay, this I got trapped or I'm in the wrong path. Every day is blissful, and like this only we are just doing, and one day we can achieve whatever
Yeah.
Krishna wants.
Yeah, there is constant reciprocation of the Lord. That is what makes it really safe, because you are not just depending on your efforts, you're depending on His mercy. So it's like, a baby monkey and a baby cat story. You know, what's the difference between a kitten and a small monkey? The cat carries the kitten in her mouth. So the kitten doesn't have to hold on to the mother, the cat carries, right? And in the case of a monkey, if you have seen in Vrindavan, small monkeys, they hang on to their mother's neck. So it is by their own power. If they fall, they fall. But similarly, for a devotee situation is like a kitten being carried by the cat. It's Krishna who's carrying us. So there is no, because we are dependent on His mercy, we have surrendered to Him. So now He is going to take care of it. So that's what makes it very safe. Thank you. Bye, Bhavi.
Aji, one more point, that it has been practiced by the acharyas, and which has been practically basically tested and tried. So this is the safest path because they have already been through all the challenges and everything, and they have poured down everything for us to make everything easy. So this is
Yeah.
the best for us in
So I'm
that case.
reminded of this verse from the 10th canto, which says that, about the acharyas, that they have not only just given us a process, but they have also left the boat behind, the boat to cross the material ocean. They go to that side and then they send the boat back so that we can also cross. So what is this boat? This is their instructions. So they give their instructions and they make sure that we can catch on to those instructions and we can sail through. So yes. So yeah, so that is why it's such a safe process. It's so practical and natural. In Kali Yuga, we cannot have the austerities we cannot perform. When we see the chapter on Ashtanga Yoga, like sit straight, who can sit straight for the whole day in Kali Yuga? Who has a back like that with, that strong a back that they can sit straight? It's very difficult. Maybe some, very few people who can do that. So that's one of the criterias, and there's so many of them, right? Okay, text 5.
क्लेशो दिक्कातरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तसक्तश्चेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहावादिभिरव्यपते. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
So from 3rd to 7th shloka, now Krishna is only focusing on those who are attached to the impersonal form. So here also he's saying that for those whose mind are attached to the unmanifested, advancement is very troublesome. It is, Krishna is saying that. So can you imagine how troublesome it must be? He's saying that it is troublesome. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis. And persons who are in full Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service to the Lord are called Bhakti Yogis. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome. Whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind which can thus be applied, right? So we are in bodily conception, so when we see the deity form, so we can connect with that deity form. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be sagun or nirgun of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is sagun worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities, but the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. So then Prabhupada explains through an example. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. You know, Prabhupada is giving this example from his time. How many of you have seen a mailbox? Please raise your hand. Most of you probably haven't seen a mailbox ever. Okay, some of you. Okay, good. Yeah, so maybe 10, 15 years down the line, nobody would even know what a mailbox is, right? So Prabhupada is giving this example, but in any old box or an imitation which he may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigra. This Archa Vigra is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigra, he can accept the services of the devotee. Just to make it convenient for the man in conditional life. So Prabhupada is making it clear that Archa Vigra is different from an idol. In Archa Vigra, the Supreme Lord himself manifests, although it's a form of matter, in the sense it's made of stone or wood or a painting. But the Lord himself manifests, and that's why when we worship Archa Vigra, it is actually rendering service to the Supreme Lord. Right? So if somebody can read this pink portion.
So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptional feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service, simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path, that the risk path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly.
Thank you. So Prabhupada is here making it clear that how easy this is. It's so natural, it comes to us so easily. Whereas on the other side, the other path, study of Upanishads and following the rules and regulations of Jnana Yoga is not going to be easy. It's against our natural tendency. And then he says, a living entity is eternally an individual soul. And if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature. But the blissful portion is not realized. Is this, you all can understand this, what Prabhupada is trying to say? Yes, no, maybe? No reaction. Should I
There
go?
is no rasa otherwise in impersonal. There is no blissfulness.
Yeah, what does it mean?
They are very serious and there is trance. They can't see the God, his beautiful form. But here in Krishna consciousness, and when we are directly attached to Krishna, we can see his loving, sweet form.
You're right.
There is rasa, the blissfulness is there.
When he
Madhurya
says he may
rasa.
accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects, but not the blissful portion, what does he mean? Devika? Can't hear you. No. No. You are on mute. Can't hear you. Jyoti?
Mataji, for when a person is eternal, if you merge like the knowledge part, like how we see who is the how Krishna showed his universal form, and the knowledge like who is Krishna, how he is, all this knowledge part we can he can understand, and the like eternal knowledge. But the bliss, like the five rasas, the rasas in which one stays with Krishna and enjoys his pastimes, be a part of his pastimes, and spend time with him, and all those things, the bliss of devotional service, all this is that person will not be able to enjoy.
Okay. Prabhu?
Mataji, Anand portion is missing because there is no direct service to Krishna. So once there is
Ac-
service, obviously
Yeah.
there is bliss.
So actually, our living entity is Sat, Chit, and Anand. That's our characteristic. So in Brahma Jyoti, one can realize Sat and Chit, but Anand is not realized. So Sat feature means eternal, Chit means knowledgeable. So these two features are fulfilled. But there is no Anand, there is no Haladini Shakti present. There is no devotional services under Haladini Shakti. There is no service so that Anand is not realized. And that is why Prabhupada says that people fall from Brahmajyoti. Because soul's characteristic is Sat, Chit and Anand. If Anand is not realized, a soul, how long can a soul stay in Brahmajyoti without experiencing any bliss? And that's the reason that they return back to this material world. Right? So this is what he's saying here. I'm sorry, Devika, I think you knew the answer but couldn't hear you. You know, there was something.
Yes, Mataji, I was talking about service that Prabhuji mentioned.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So by the grace of some devotees, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Gyan Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. How? By the grace of some devotee. It is only by the grace of a devotee that a Gyan Yogi can come to Bhakti Yogi. At that time, long practice is impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea. So Jnani is so used to the impersonal conception that it is very difficult for him to come to terms with the fact that actually Supreme Lord's highest realization is in the form of his personal form. They cannot conceive that because they're just so used to, meditating on impersonal form. So Prabhupada says, therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, is already, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. So, impersonalism has been completely shot down in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is saying one should not actually strive for impersonalistic realization. Okay? Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Mataji, I have a question. I have a question in this, Mataji. It's been mentioned that every living soul is partially independent. So how the living soul is partially independent, Mataji?
Free will?
So is it not the fully independent?
No. It's not that tomorrow if you decide, okay, I'm going to become, I should be able to fly on my own, I do this or I do that. Can you do that? No. You can exercise like Shubham Prabhu had given an example yesterday, like a cow
The cow and
tied.
the tree.
So you can only, within that circumference, you can go. But beyond that, you can't because there is a constraint by your karmas.
Okay. So those constraints restricts us for the partial independence, right?
Yeah, when you'll read Ishopanishad, you'll see that how everyone has an individual quota, and you have to kind of manage within that quota. However hard you work, even if you work 24 hours a day, you're not going to become an Ambani. Why? That's not your quota. Right? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Daya?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, in the purport, it is written Archa Vigra. So my question is, Archa Vigra, like it is, I have heard that metal deities are something which has to be kept in altar and not fiber one. So like, is there any like constitutions of deity dependent?
I don't remember. I think it's 8 or 9 types. One is wood. It's given in Bhagavatam. One is wood, if it's a wooden deity, or marble, or metal, or I think it's sand, and one is oil painted. They can be also considered as deity, right? So there are, in Bhagavatam is given. I can send the list in the group. So those are the bona fide deity forms. Okay. 6, 7.
ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्परा अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मया वेशितचेतसाम्. Translation: But those who worship me, giving up all their activities onto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Parth, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death.
Thank you. So what is Krishna saying here? This is a Ananya Bhakti verse. What is Krishna saying here? I'm the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. What did he say for the impersonalist? They at last come to me. But here he's saying swift, that they very swiftly they attain me, swiftly they come to me. Yeah. So so Krishna is making it very clear. In the purport, Prabhupada says, it is explicitly stated here that the devotees are very fortunate to be delivered very soon from material existence by the Lord. Yeah. So in our case, what does very soon mean? We may wonder, oh, we have been practicing, but we are not getting delivered. What does Krishna mean by very soon? What does it mean?
By the end of this life.
In one life, yes. So Prabhupada says
Yes.
that if you are sincere and you follow the process sincerely and seriously, in one life you can go back home, back to Godhead. That is very soon, very, very soon. What is one life in the whole calculation of eternity? Nothing. So then Prabhupada says the Supreme Lord can be appreciated only by devotional service. Therefore, one should be fully devoted. One should fix his mind fully on Krishna in order to achieve him. One should work only for Krishna. It does not matter in what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His life mission is to please Krishna, and he can sacrifice everything for Krishna's satisfaction, just as Arjun did in the battle of Kurukshetra. The process is very simple. One can devote himself in his occupation and engage at the same time in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Such transcendental chanting attracts the devotee to the personality of Godhead. Now, I have a question. It does not matter in what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. Is it true for all kind of work? No? Yes? What do you think? If there is a butcher, he has a meat shop and he's working and he says, okay, I'm working for Krishna. Is that okay? Why not? Krishna is saying here, and Prabhupada is saying here, it does not matter what kind of work one engages. Can't hear you, Vaibhavi, if you're saying something.
Mataji, it's killing somebody. So
So,
that is not, that is adharma. Krishna is talking about dharma. So basically,
I don't
that
see
type of
Prabhupada talking about dharma. Did he say?
any kind of work.
He's saying not, it does not matter what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna.
Confusing.
Good. Jyoti?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. What I understood is should be a proper rationale. Like if there is a butcher initially when he doesn't have any other option and he's working in order to survive, for that instant of time it is fine. But if he has other options of directly serving the Krishna and leaving that service, if he's working as a butcher, then it will be like that other service will be considered superior. So the rationale should be proper,
Okay.
whatever service it is.
Okay. Prabhu?
Mataji, I think the work is divided as per the varnas and the ashrams, and one should be situated in that. So probably Krishna is talking about those varna and ashrams here. That
But Prabhupada is not talking, is he? Did he say Varnashram anywhere?
not really, but in the previous verses, in the previous chapters, what we heard that the violence should be avoided, and in case if there is some violence, I believe there in the chapter 3, it should be on the basis of religious principles only. So if the butcher is doing the violence on the basis of the religious principles, then it is a Krishna karma, otherwise it is not.
Okay. Krishna Premantaji?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Dandavat Pranam.
It is mentioned in the purport itself that devotee's mission should be to please Krishna. So Krishna will be never pleased or happy if you kill someone. So if butcher is doing this kind of thing, then it is not a good occupation.
Thank you.
And
So now we have to pay attention. One should work only for Krishna. It does not matter in what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. What does it mean to be working only for Krishna? That means that you do it as an offering to Krishna. You do it as an offering to Krishna. Can a dharmic activity be offered to Krishna? Will Krishna accept a dharmic activity? No. So that's how we read this, that when Prabhupada says that no matter what kind of work one engages, that means whatever prescribed duties you are doing. It doesn't matter if you're going and working in an office. It does not matter if you're doing Brahminical work. It does not matter if you're cleaning some place and doing the work of a Shudra. It doesn't matter. Or taking care of agriculture and animals. Whatever you do, that work should be done as an offering for Krishna. Only for Krishna means that. And the work that cannot be offered to Krishna, that should not be done. As simple as that. Okay? Jia Kumari, you raised your hand.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Yes,
Nice.
Mataji.
What are you doing here?
Mataji, I'm here to hear you. आपको
Really?
सुनना है? Yes, Mataji.
Wow.
Uh,
Because she is doing
Mat-
Bhakti Vaibhav. She just finished Bhakti Vaibhav. What is she doing here? Anyways, okay. Yeah.
Mataji, I wanted to ask like जैसे हमने पढ़ा भी है और सुना भी है काफी लेक्चर्स में कि है ना जैसे हम जो है काफी मतलब सारी चीजें जो है ऐसे एंगेज कर सकते हैं कृष्ण कॉन्शियसनेस में डिपेंड करता है कि हम मतलब अगर कोई उत्तमाधिकारी डिवोटी है कोई वेरी एडवांस्ड है तो दे कैन तो क्या उत्तम अधिकारी भी ये अधार्मिक टाइप की चीज है जैसे कि ये अभी आपने बुचर का एग्जांपल दिया क्या वो वाली चीजें एंगेज कर सकते हैं कृष्णा की सर्विस पे
I'll give you an example. Sometimes some gurus, they send their disciples in, especially I've heard from like Kolkata, that there are certain places where there are mostly butchers and like people like that. So they send their disciples there, that you go and preach, you go give them books, you give them books, and you collect some Lakshmi from them. The mood then is that okay, if they get a book, then hopefully they'll open it and they'll read something, they'll get some sukriti. Similarly, if you collect from them, and you use it, you bring it to Krishna. Krishna may or may not accept it, but just the idea that they have let go of some of their Lakshmi for the service of the Lord will purify them. It will purify them. And we'll read in this chapter, Krishna will give different levels of advancement, how progressive stages of devotional service. In that, he'll say that one of the stage of devotional service is that if you can't do anything else, just whatever you're doing, do some offering, or let go of some results. So by doing that, even if you're not doing it for Krishna, if you're just letting go of some results, then that will detach you from the fruits and it will help you become purified. So in that sense, yes. Jyoti?
Just wanted to share this, Mataji, that while going for book distribution, people who are selling on street vendors and selling vegetables and all these butchers, and they are more interested in buying books. Means they, even there though they don't have money like that much. If we approach middle class people and high class people, many of them, they don't just want to listen also, but they are so humble. Means they just even if they have 20 rupees, they'll ask that, okay, 30 rupees book, can you give it for 20, like that? And they're so much interested. It's very even though their profession is so they're not maintaining that much hygiene, and they are into some sinful activity like as such profession, but they're so much interested in knowing about Krishna.
Very true. That's why, did you guys memorize this was Bhog Aishwarya Prasaktanam? Did you guys memorize? Did you have to memorize that verse? So,
Yes, Mataji.
Yes,
did.
Mataji.
So it is that verse that people who have opulence and who are bewildered by that opulence, it's very difficult for such people to come to devotional service. Even Kunti Maharani says that. She says that people who have good education, who have good birth, who have opulence, for them to surrender to Krishna is not easy. Right? So we see that practically also. Prabhupada used to say that to bring a rich man to the temple and make him bow down in front of the deity is very, very difficult. Yeah, Vaibhavi?
Madhuri, I have a question. I have heard this somewhere that if we eat something from the money that has been came from violence or some other criminal things, and suppose somebody is coming to temple and that person is not coming from a good background, he has some bad activities, and he um, offers money or donates money in temple and wants the devotees to cook prasadam. Do we get karma of that prasadam as well, or does that gets purified by offering to Krishna?
What do you think?
It gets purified
Why?
because
Because it has been offered to Krishna, and especially if devotees have cooked and they have offered, Krishna will accept.
even if the money is coming from bad activities.
Yeah, even if it's coming from bad activities. How else will they get delivered? Tell me. If Krishna also does not accept, how else will they get purified?
Oh, right.
If
So
Krishna says, okay, you are a horrible person, you are sinful, I'm not going to accept any of your offering, there's no hope for that person.
Krishna is equal to all, as we have read.
Yes, he wants everybody to come back to him. So, whatever may be your way of, first of all, for such a person who's so sinful, it's not easy to part with the money. If Krishna has given him some inspiration to part with some money, and he comes and gives it to devotee, and then they offer it to Krishna, then fine, Krishna is apapa vidham. The moment he accepts, all pap goes away. There is no pap in it anymore. Yeah?
Right? Yeah.
Okay. And Prabhupada says the Supreme Lord herein promises that without delay, he will deliver a pure devotee, thus engaged from the ocean of material existence. Those who are advanced in yoga practice can willfully transfer the soul to whatever planet they like by the yoga process, and others take the opportunity in various ways. But as far as the devotee is concerned, it is clearly stated here that the Lord Himself takes him. We read something like this: Yoga Kshemam Vahamayam. He personally delivers his devotee. The devotee does not need to wait to become very experienced in order to transfer himself to the spiritual sky. All a devotee needs to do is become sincere. He may not be expert, he may not be very learned, Krishna will take care of it. All he wants is our surrender. He does not want our, intelligence. He does not want our knowledge. He's not looking at our achievement. He's looking at our mood. That is what Krishna is looking for. And when you read NOI, in the preface, Prabhupada says there's a very brilliant sentence: the advancement of a practitioner depends on his attitude. It's the mood that takes us anywhere. It's not our knowledge, it's not our achievement. It is the mood behind that activity. So that's what Prabhupada is saying, that all one has to do is become sincere. And sincere is a very interesting word. It comes from a Latin word which is sincera. Sincera, that means without wax, without cracks. In Latin, it means without wax, without cracks. So in those days, in the time of Michelangelo and all, they used to order marble. And sometimes these marble vendors would cover the cracks with wax and send it. And when they start sculpting, that would come apart. Right? That wax would just give way and the whole sculpture would just come apart. So when they used to place an order, they used to write without wax, sincera. I'm ordering sincera wax, sincera marble. That means no wax, no cracks. Right? So similarly, sincere means no wax, no cracks. What does it mean by no wax, no cracks? For a devotee. Yes, Vaibhavi.
No cheating, no duplicity.
No cheating, no duplicity, yes.
No
Prabhu?
excuses.
Sorry?
Same. No duplicity.
No duplicity, yeah.
No excuses.
No excuses, inside, outside the same.
Pure
Not,
devotee.
not like, you seem something from outside and you're something else inside. Right? In the temple, I look like a very nice, humble, surrender devotee. My kurta is always nice. My kanthi is there. My bead bag always hanging with my neck. I always bow down in front of every devotee. Hare Krishna. And I also pay obeisances and I'm very humble. And I come home, I'm a different person altogether. Not like that. Inside out the same. That's what it means to be sincere. Because you cannot cheat Krishna. We can cheat the whole world. But Krishna, you can't cheat. He exactly knows what's inside and what's outside. So, and Krishna is the one who's going to allow us in his abode, right? So if he is not convinced that we are sincere, there's no cheating that's going to work there. So then Prabhupada says, a child is completely cared for by his parents and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Just like a parent would take the child wherever he needs to go. Similarly, a devotee is taken by Krishna. And then Prabhupada gives a very, very nice example. And there is some devotee has painted this. So you must have seen this picture. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once riding on his bird carrier Garuda and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. Have you seen this picture? That Krishna is riding on Garuda and a person is drowning in the ocean and he's just pulling him up, right? That's how he does it. Although man who's fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, however expert you are, you can't really cross the ocean. Nobody can do that. He cannot, Prabhupada says he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from this material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. Now, if somebody can read this green portion.
One should not engage in the different process of fruitive activity or cultivate knowledge by the mental speculative process. One who is devoted to the Supreme Personality can attain all the benefits derived from other yogic processes, speculation, rituals, sacrifices, charities, etc. That is the specific benediction of devotional service. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, a devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily, but this destination cannot be approached by any other process of religion. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhupada is making it very clear that, a devotee who has achieved devotion at the lotus feet of the Lord does not need to really worry about anything else. He already has all the siddhis, everything. And we can even see in the example of Prabhupada that, although Prabhupada did not ever like really use them or display them, he had all the mystic siddhis. He had all the mystic siddhis. So a devotee doesn't have to strive for them separately, and a devotee is not even interested in them. He uses them if at all required in the service of the Lord. Otherwise, he does not even care about them. Okay, so text 8.
मय्येव मन आदत्स्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निविस क्या लिखा है इसका निवसिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will live in me always without a doubt.
So here Krishna is talking about the internal practice of bhakti yoga. This is internal practice, right? Fixing the mind, engaging all intelligence. He's not talking about engaging the senses. He's talking about an internal practice of bhakti yoga. And then he says, then you will live in me always without a doubt, right? So this is what happens if one is fixing one's mind on Krishna and one is always remembering Krishna. Then what will happen? At the end of one's life, one will go to Krishna. Krishna already told us in 8th chapter. So Prabhupada says, one who's engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane, he lives in Krishna. The holy name of Krishna, holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts those eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnized by eating the remnants. So we want to become Krishnized. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures. So Prabhupada is saying that there is direct relationship, there's direct reciprocation. And when one is such engaged that one's mind is constantly thinking about Krishna, one's intelligence is completely in Krishna, then that person is in a transcendental position. There's nothing else that that person thinks or lives for. He thinks of Krishna and he lives for Krishna. Now, and from 8 to 12, we will see that Krishna will give different levels of practicing. That if you can practice this, okay, at least do this. If you can do this, at least do this. So he is basically giving us different levels. And when we see this, it just shows us his supreme compassion and magnanimity, that he does not want to leave anybody. Whatever you can do it and come to me. If you are not able to fix your mind, no problem. At least do this and come to me. Okay, if you are not even able to do that, okay, do something lower and come to me. So Krishna is so magnanimous. So in text 9 he says, Atha chittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya.
My dear Arjun, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me.
Thank you. So in the 8th shloka, he said what? That fix your mind and engage your intelligence in me, and thus you will live in me always without a doubt. And here he's saying that if you can do that, if you say that, oh Krishna, my mind is very fickle, I'm not able to fix my mind upon you, what should I do? Then he's saying, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. What does this mean? Vaidhi Bhakti. In this way, develop a desire. And if you act like that, you will develop a strong desire to attain me, and then you will be able to fix your mind and intelligence in me and come to me. Okay? So Prabhupada says in this word, 2 different processes of Bhakti Yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna. Who's that person? One who can fix his mind upon him without deviation. So that person has already developed an attachment for Krishna. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by a transcendental love. For such a person, Krishna is recommending regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. For this second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. Bhakti Yoga is the purification of the senses. At present moment in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, these senses can become purified, and in the purified state, they can come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. So if you practice, what Krishna is saying, that if you practice rules and regulations, your senses will become purified and you'll develop a strong desire to attain me. And then you can come to the level of pure love. Then you can come to the level of loving me and having a relationship with me. Somebody read this blue portion.
In this material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. I simply serve to get some money. And the master also is not in the love. He takes service from me and pays me. So there is no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service performed with the present senses. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart, and their love of God is manifested in different ways, but it is contaminated by material association. Now the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna, then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. These are various rules and regulations which one should follow. And one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of the love of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of Bhakti Yoga under the rules and regulations with the direction of a spiritual master will surely bring one to the stage of the love of God.
Thank you. So Prabhupada is making it very clear what are the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. These are the 64 angas of devotional service, and you'll read more about it in NOD. Okay? So he says that by doing so, one can come to the platform of love, and then one can actually attain Krishna. Now, 10th, he says, Abhyase piya asamarthosi mat karma paramo bhava mat artham api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsisi.
Hare Krishna. If you
Right.
cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage.
So now this is
Maniji, can I read the perfect?
Hold on. This is the lower stage from text 9. In text 9, he said, practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga. Right? If you can't fix your mind upon me, then you practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga. And in text 10, he's saying that if you can practice, If you can practice, that is, if you can't practice sadhana bhakti, then what you do? You just work for me. Work for me. So this is the platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga. We'll see. Prabhupada will give us a purport. Yeah, read.
One who is not able even to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they require help. So even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activity, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. Hare
So,
Krishna.
thank you. So, Prabhupada is explaining what Krishna means. So, he's saying that, okay, one may not be doing sadhana bhakti, that is, one cannot chant, one cannot read, one cannot hear. So, what do? You help with the Krishna conscious activities. And I've personally seen such examples where people were just coming, helping for like Rath Yatras and helping for, helping with like washing pots when in the DT kitchen, and doing different kind of such activities. And slowly they come to the platform where they start chanting, and then they take initiation, and then they become very serious. So this is how the process goes. So Krishna knows that everybody cannot take directly to the process of Krishna consciousness. So he's saying that doesn't matter, you can chant. A lot of people are not interested in chanting. So that's also like a preaching application, that when we are, we all have to preach. So when we go for preaching and somebody is not really interested in, following anything, coming to any classes, but if you see a spark that this person can be engaged in some service for Krishna, then engage that person. Because by that service, that person will get purified and slowly come to the platform where they'll take up the practice of sadhana bhakti and slowly come to the level of pure love. Okay? Text 11. Yes, Jyoti.
Mataji, professions which like require 24 hours involvement, like in the army, soldiers, and like navy. So they cannot afford to take prasadam, and they even don't have time to chant every time. So how should they follow Krishna consciousness?
Two of my god brothers, one of them he retired as a major general, and one retired as brigadier in the army. And they both were initiated, and they both were chanting. So it is actually, if you're interested, you can find time anywhere and everywhere. It is only about prioritizing. Lot of times, 99% of the times when people say, I don't have time, it means they have not prioritized bhakti. That's all. I like that quote of Prabhupada very much. There's when Prabhupada went to, I think it was the LA temple, he went to the LA temple, and this devotee was painting the temple. He was like high up on, like a step stool, and he was painting. So Prabhupada noticed that, okay, he's painting the temple. Prabhupada was happy. And then after some time, that devotee came to Prabhupada and said that, Prabhupada, I have so much service that I'm not able to chant. I don't have time to chant. So Prabhupada said, do you sleep? So he said, yes, Prabhupada, I sleep. He said, do you eat? He said, yes, I eat, Prabhupada. He said, then you can chant. So it is all actually, if you say, even in your life, or sometimes you think we don't have time, we don't have time, we don't have time for this. But it is only about time management. If something is a priority, it gets done. However busy you are, if tomorrow there is something which you think is high priority, it comes in your life, you will make time for that. Right?
Yes, Mataji.
So it is only, the problem is setting a priority. It is not that they actually don't have time.
So Mataji, they used to eat prasadam, have prasadam all the
Yes,
time.
because they have a canteen. It is not the ideal standard. They have a canteen and where they get, uh, food cooked without onion and garlic. And like they have separate pots for their cooking. They get them cooked and then they offer it to the Lord and then they have it like that. It is not the ideal situation, but Krishna sees. He's not like, he is not a taskmaster that, oh, you did not have it the perfect way. He's not like that. He sees your circumstance. He is a loving God. He sees. He knows what you can do and what you can't do.
Thank you, Mataji.
Text 11. अथेतदपि अशक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं तथा कुरु यतात्मवान्.
If, however, you are unable to work in the consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated.
Yeah. So he's saying that if you can't even work for me, like in the previous verse, he says that work for me. If you can't even do that, then what do? You act, then try to act giving up all results of your work. Then what do? You start giving up the results. So Prabhupada gives a very nice purport to this. It may be that if one is unable even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, and or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members and so many other difficulties. For one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result of his activities to some good cause. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions of punya, or special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus, one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. What will happen? One will come to the state of knowledge. It is also found that when one who's not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness gives charity to some hospital or some other social institution, he gives up the hard earned results of his activities. That is also recommended here because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually. And in that purified state of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. So this is one step lower, right? From the 10th verse, this is one step even lower. Then Prabhupada says, of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience, but because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice of one's country, etc., may be accepted, so that one day, one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 1846, we find it stated, Yatha pravritte bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by sacrificial method. So see, Krishna is so kind, He's giving an option to everyone. Wherever you are, whatever you are, you can actually act in a certain way and ultimately get the goal of human life, ultimately get perfection. Text 12. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phala tyagas shanteranantaram.
If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of actions. For, for by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind.
Yeah. So he's saying that if you can take to the practice of Krishna consciousness, if you can do that, then what do? You engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. So the acharyas make it clear that knowledge here means Brahma Gyan, not like any knowledge. It means Brahma Gyan. And better than Brahma Gyan, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. So sometimes it may seem like a reverse yoga ladder. That, oh, how is this, But Prabhupada explains, as mentioned in the previous verses, there are two kinds of devotional service. The way of regulative principles, which is Vaidhi Bhakti, and the way of full attachment and love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Raganuga Bhakti. For those who are actually not able to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, it is better to cultivate knowledge. Because by knowledge, one can be able to understand his real position. Gradually, knowledge will develop to the point of meditation, and by meditation, one can be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by a gradual process. There are processes which make one understand that one himself is supreme. What is this process? That one understands I'm a soul and I'm part and parcel of Krishna, or I'm part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, right? So, and that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in devotional service. If one is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties as enjoined in Vedic literature for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, which we shall find in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But in all cases, one should give up the result of fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karma for some good cause. So Prabhupada then says, in summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradual development, and the other process is direct. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method, and the other method involves renouncing the fruits of one's activities. Then one comes to the stage of knowledge. By renouncing the fruits of one's activities, one gets purified, and then one can accept knowledge. One comes to the stage of knowledge, and then to the stage of meditation, and then to the stage of understanding the super soul, and then to the stage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One may take either the step-by-step process or the direct path. The direct path process is not possible for everyone. Therefore, indirect process is also good. It is, however, to be understood that the indirect process is not recommended for Arjun, because he is already at the stage of loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. One second. It is for others who are not at this stage. For them, the gradual process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation, and realization of the super soul and Brahman should be followed. But as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take to the direct method and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So Prabhupada says that, Krishna is giving different processes. These are indirect. These are gradual processes. He's saying that, okay, do something so that you get on the train. At least get on the train. And, some trains are express trains and some trains are passenger trains. So express trains reach the destination very quickly. But passenger train may take a long, long time, right? But get on the train at least. If you don't have the money to buy the ticket for an express train, at least get on a passenger train. So that is what Krishna is telling by the gradual process. Now we will see from 13 to 20, Krishna will give almost 35 qualities that make a devotee dear to him. So he says, Advaishta sarva bhutana maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara sama dukha sukha shame santushta satatam yogi yatatma drida nishchaya mayarpita mano buddhir yo madbhakta same priya. So you'll notice that he'll use this word priya in every shloka. He's saying yo madbhakta same priya. That such kind of devotee is very dear to me. So somebody read the translation.
One is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me.
So Krishna is very kindly revealing his heart from 13 to 20. He's revealing his heart, that what really attracts him, what makes one dear to him. So this is very important for a devotee, because everyone wants to become dear to Krishna, right? We all are here to become dear to Krishna. So he is giving us a blueprint. This is how you can become dear to me. So Prabhupada says, coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances. Why? Why? Why a pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances? Yes, Prabhu.
Because his mind is always fixed onto Krishna.
His mind is always fixed. Yes, Vaibhavi?
Because he always is engaged in pleasing Krishna.
He's always
The thing.
engaged in pleasing Krishna. Yes. Okay.
Mataji, can I speak?
Who's this? Devika?
Because he is satisfied with the plannings of Krishna.
Yes, because he accepts Krishna's plan. Yes. Jyoti?
Behind every situation, whatever he is in, he'll see that Krishna is there behind that plan. So
Krishna's hand. He can see Krishna's hand in everything. Yes. Krishna Priya Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji, he takes happiness and sadness equally.
Because he is not bothered by the dualities of this material world. Okay. Vishakha?
Mataji, I was about to say the same thing, that he is free from dualities.
Dualities. Okay. Bhavika?
Mataji, because a devotee completely surrenders to Lord in whatever work he's doing, whatever
So he's completely surrendered and he's completely aligned with the plan of the Lord. Harshika?
माताजी बिकॉज ही इज नेवर डिस्टर्ब, जो भी सर्कमस्टेंसेस लाइफ में होते हैं उनकी कृष्णा ने उनके लिए किया है, कुछ अच्छा भी होता है तो वो उसको थैंक यू समझ लेते हैं, कृष्णा को उसके लिए भी थैंकफुल होते हैं, और अगर कुछ बुरा भी होता है तो वो उसको कृष्ण की मर्जी ही समझते हैं,
Okay. Okay.
इसीलिए वो कभी डिस्टर्ब नहीं होता है.
Tanvi? Can't hear you. Your voice is not coming through. You're on mute. You need to unmute yourself. I can't hear you. Thank you. But maybe later, if you can, fix your microphone, maybe we can hear you later. Very interesting, very nice answers, that yes, he's not disturbed in any circumstances because he knows that Krishna is my ultimate well-wisher. And this is Krishna's plan. He has sanctioned this plan for me. So there must be something beneficial for me in this. Yeah. And then Prabhupada says, nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He doesn't become his enemy's enemy. He thinks this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds. It is better to suffer than to protest. And then Prabhupada quotes this very beautiful and very famous verse from the prayers of Brahma, 10:14:8, and it is Tatya anukampam susumikshamano bhunja nevatma kritam vipakam. So he says, whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is, he thinks that it is Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I'm suffering now. It is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I'm not getting all the punishment I'm due. I'm just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he's always calm, quiet, patient, despite many distressful conditions. Yeah, and a devotee is always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body, therefore he is freed from the conception of false ego and is free from dualities rising from that false ego. He is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant, and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. And then Prabhupada says he's completely perfect mystic because he's fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he's determined, he's not swayed by false arguments because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. He's fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All these qualifications enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So one comes to that level if one very sincerely follows the regulative principles of devotional service, which is part of Vaidhi Bhakti. You will come to know more about it when you do NOD. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. Okay, somebody can read. Oops.
यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षां हर्ष भयोद्वेगैर्मुक्तो यः such a may priyaha. Translation: He for whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me.
So in the purport, Prabhupada says, no one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. So if you want to become dear to Krishna, so we should not put anybody in difficulty, we should not put anybody in anxiety or make anybody fearful or dissatisfy anyone. Since a devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others in anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbance. Actually, because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional service, such material circumstances cannot move him. Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there's something for his sense gratification and his body. But when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he hasn't, he's sorry and envious. When he's expecting some retaliation for an enemy, he's in the state of fear. And when he cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected. A devotee is always transcendental to all these disturbances, is very dear to Krishna. Now in text 16, Krishna continues, Anapeksha shuchirdaksha udasino gata vitha sarvarambha parityagi yo madbhakta same priyaha.
My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me.
Yeah, he's free from all pains. He's not even striving for any result. He's, without care. So in the purport, somebody can read this purport, please.
Money may be offered to a devotee, but he should not struggle to acquire it. If automatically, by the grace of the Supreme, money comes to him, he is not agitated. Naturally, a devotee takes a bath at least twice in a day and rises early in the morning for devotional service. Thus, he is naturally clean, both inwardly and outwardly. A devotee is always expert because he fully knows the essence of all activities of life and he is convinced of the authoritative scriptures. A devotee never takes the part of a particular party, therefore, he is carefree. He is never pained because he is free from all designations. He knows that his body is a designation. So if there are some bodily pains, he is free. The pure devotee does not endeavor for anything which is against the principles of devotional service. For example, constructing a big building requires great energy, and the devotee does not take to such business if it does not benefit him by advancing his devotional service. He may construct a temple for the Lord, and for that he may take all kinds of anxiety, but he does not construct a big house for his personal relations.
So Prabhupada is making it very clear that a devotee can do anything for the Lord but not for his own personal sense gratification. And here he says that a devotee is free from all designations. What do you understand by that? What designations? Jyoti?
What I understood is Mataji, his personal relations, as a personal, as a father, as a child, as a mother. He's free from all these personal responsibilities because the responsibility to the Supreme is the topmost, and Krishna will take care of all the other responsibilities.
Thank you. Bhavika?
Mataji, maybe he means that all the personal goals and personal ownership of the designations of the posts.
Okay. Thank you. Prabhu?
Mataji, there is a verse, I'm not able to recollect, but na ham varni nachya gaharpatir napi vanas.
Napi Vaishyo na Shudro.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mataji. So the devotee should be free from all these designations related to that, and he should consider himself das dasanudas.
Easily said than done, no? Yeah. Yeah. Vaibhavi?
Mataji, a devotee knows that he is not the proprietor, and he knows that Krishna is the benefactor and well-wisher of all the living entities. So he doesn't get attached to that designation.
Okay, thank you. So I want you all to do an exercise, although this is probably our last class, but do it for yourself. Write down all the designations you hold. All the designations that you hold. Yeah, I'm a good devotee. I'm a surrendered devotee. I'm an, initiated disciple. I'm maybe a second initiated disciple. I'm a Bhakti Shastri. These are also designations. They have nothing to do with us. Yeah, I am a leader. I am a preacher. I'm a book distributor. These are also designations. There's only one role which is not a designation. What is that?
Servant of
Yes,
Krishna.
Dasos me. Yeah, everything besides that is a designation. Even being a devotee is a designation. Yeah, we are servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, and it goes on. It's a very long list. So we have to come to that platform. So please make a list, because it makes us aware how many designations we are holding on to. Being a man, being an Indian, being a North Indian, being a South Indian, being a Punjabi, being a Bengali. These are all designations. Yeah. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, since we are discussing about pure devotees, there is one reference in the handbook, 4 Sukritins. So one is out of them, Gyanis, 4 Kumaras and Shukdev Goswami, it is mentioned. And it is also given below that these are not pure devotees. They wanted to do something else. So I'm not able to understand. 4 Kumaras, okay, they were into Brahma Jyotis and all things. But how come Shukdev Goswami, who has narrated entire Bhagavatam, is not a pure devotee?
Yeah, Shukdev Goswami, this comes in the first canto, 7th chapter. This whole thing is given that Shukdev Goswami was a Jivan Mukta when he was born. He was an impersonalist. So Vyasdev knew that he is an impersonalist. And this is in the context of that very famous verse, 1710, Atma Ramascha Munyo. That, Vyasdev knew there was no way he could hold him back. Because he was a Jivan Mukta. As soon as he was born, he just left home. So Vyasdev devised a trick to hold him back. He sent people after him and gave them 2 verses of Bhagavatam, that you go and recite these 2 verses in front of him, and then he will get attracted and come back. So By the mercy of Vyasadev, Shukadev Goswami became a pure devotee. Before that, he was a impersonalist. He was Jivan Mukta.
But he is now, since we are saying that we can become pure devotee in one lifetime, since 5,000 years have gone, so he will be there somewhere, but he has now become a pure devotee. So we should not take him or consider him a non-devotee or
But
not a pure
initially,
devotee.
when this is being talked about, even 4 Kumaras are now pure devotees. Once they smelt the
Yeah.
tulsi that was
Tulsi
being
leaves,
offered at the lotus feet, they became, personalists. So they also became pure devotees. So it is, when this reference is given, it's given like what they were, not the later stage, what they were initially.
in the initial stages.
Initially.
Okay, because one of the this commentaries from Bhakti Vinod Thakurji also says that Shukdev Goswami has reached the fruits of whatever bhakti he was doing, which is mentioned there. So we can take him as a pure devotee.
He is a pure devotee, but he was not earlier.
He was not.
So basically, in Bhagavatam, it comes that whatever, even those who are Jivan Mukta, they relish Bhagavatam. It is not only meant for, materialistic people. It is also meant for Jivan Muktas. And also, when this reference is given, it also talks about the mercy of a devotee. That how, a jnani can become a devotee by the mercy of a devotee. Okay? 17. यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न कांक्षति शुभा परित्यागी भक्ति मान्य समे priya. Notice in every verse he's saying priya same priya. Such a person is very dear to me. Okay, somebody read translation and purport, please.
One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me. Purport: a pure devotee is neither happy nor distressed over material gain and loss, nor is he very much anxious to get a son or disciple, nor is he distressed by not getting them. If he loses anything which is very dear to him, he does not lament. Similarly, if he does not get what he desires, he is not distressed. He is transcendental in the face of all kinds of auspicious, inauspicious, and sinful activities. He is prepared to accept all kinds of risks for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Nothing is an impediment in the discharge of his devotional service. Such a devotee is very dear to Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. So why is he not distressed? Because he knows this material, the nature of this material world, and he has nothing to do with this material world. He understands that I am here. I've been given a chance to make my human life perfect and go back home, back to Godhead. So I have nothing to do with this material world. So whatever is happening here is all a drama. I'm not going to become a part of that. So that's why a devotee he doesn't lament, he does not desire, does not rejoice, does not grieve. He's perfectly fixed in his role as a servant. So then everything else, he's not bothered. 18-19. Somebody please read.
May I? समः शत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दा स्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरमतिर्भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and despair, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me.
Yeah. So please, somebody please read this purport.
A devotee is always free from all bad association. Sometimes one is praised and sometimes one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, distress or happiness.
I
He
have a
is very
question. I have a question here. Why does Prabhupada say artificial fame and infamy? A devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy. Why artificial? Somebody please. Yes, Vaibhavi.
Mataji, it's artificial because people might praise you in front of you, but they also talk bad behind you. So a devotee is not concerned about those things, such kind of fame and
Okay, if somebody
infamy.
is not talking bad behind you, then it becomes real fame and infamy.
That is minute fame. It will pass one day. In this material world, it will pass.
Jyoti?
What I understood is it is a like Kali Yuga. So this Yuga will end and everything will finish off. So this is momentary and real fame comes only through Krishna's mercy. So that fame is nothing as compared to this fame. So this is just momentary happiness to which we are attached. So it is known as artificial fame.
Yeah, so Prabhupada in one of the purports that we read, he said that being famous means becoming famous as a devotee. That's the real fame. That when Krishna recognizes you as his devotee, when Krishna says, "Oh, that's my devotee," or "That person is dear to me," that is fame. Everything else is so transient. What's the value of such fame or infamy, right? And then Prabhupada is saying he's very patient. He does not speak of anything but the topics about Krishna. Therefore, he's called silent. Mauna means what? Speaking only about Krishna. Mauna doesn't mean that you just, zip your mouth and don't speak anything. That's not Mauna. Mauna for a Krishna conscious person means not speaking nonsense, not indulging in prajalpa, but speaking about Krishna. Silent does not mean that one should not speak. Silent means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only of essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. A devotee is happy in all conditions. Sometimes he may get very palatable foodstuff, sometimes not, but he is satisfied. Nor does he care for any residential facility. He may sometimes live underneath a tree, or he may sometimes live in a very palatial building. He is attracted to neither. This is the thing to note. It is not that tomorrow, you decide, oh, I have a nice apartment. So Prabhupada said that a devotee, should live sometimes under a tree, sometimes in an apartment. What he's trying to emphasize is he's not attracted or attached. You live whichever facility Krishna provides, you live there, but you're not attached to that facility. And he's called fixed because he's fixed in his determination and knowledge. We may find some repetition in the descriptions of the qualification of a devotee, but this is just to emphasize the fact that a devotee must acquire all these qualifications. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna. So Prabhupada is quoting this verse from the 5th canto. One who is not a devotee has no good qualification. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop the good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engagement in Krishna consciousness and devotional service automatically helps him develop them. Yeah. Now the last shloka of this chapter. Ye tu dharmamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate Shraddhadhana mat parama bhaktaste tiva me priyaha.
Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me.
Read the purport, please.
In this chapter, from verse 2 through the end, from my Aveshya mano ye mam, fixing the mind on me, through yetu dharmam mritam idam, this religion of eternal engagement, the Supreme Lord has explained the process of transcendental service for approaching Him. Such processes are very dear to the Lord, and He accepts a person engaged in them. The question The question of who is better, one who is engaged in the path of impersonal Brahman or one who is engaged in the path of in the personal service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was raised by Arjun, and the Lord replied to him so explicitly that there is no doubt the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the best of all processes of spiritual realization. In other words, in this chapter, it is decided that through good association, one develops attachment for pure devotional service and thereby accepts a bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant and observe the regulative principles of devotional service with faith, attachment, and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This path is recommended in this chapter. Therefore, there is no doubt that devotional service is the only absolute path for self realization, for the attainment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. So here Prabhupada is stressing on sadhu sangha, why and how it is so important to have quality association of devotees. You know, a lot of times we think that, okay, if we are with some devotee, that is devotee association. Is it devotee association, hanging out with some devotees? What is devotee association? How does an association become a devotee association? Yes, Vaibhav.
Association that always involves Krishna, working for Krishna, serving Krishna, talking about Krishna, like engaging in Bhagavad Gita recitation shlokas or Bhagavatam or book distribution with the devotees, making prasadam or mandir marjan, and so on activities. That is called the association of devotees, as per me.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a very honestly tell me, how many of you can do only this? Krishna Priya Mataji, you can do only this?
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is not, I have raised hand for, like we should have the association of Uttamadhikaris and Madhyamadhikaris under their guidance. We should always follow.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't want to embarrass anybody, so I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands. But you know, I know of devotees who go shopping. I know of devotees who watch movies. I know of devotees who just hang out with friends and play some games. I know of all these kind of devotees. So how do we understand? How can we really apply this in our life? Yes, Prabhu.
Probably the practical application is whenever we are associating with devotees, whether it be going out for shopping and all, the consciousness should remain same, right? The consciousness should be that we are helping each other. Probably it's for shopping purpose only also, but the consciousness should be that we are helping each other to progress in our spiritual life. So probably if with that intention, the devotee association fructifies. Otherwise, that is not a devotee association.
Thank you. Actually, what I want to bring, the point that I want to bring here is that it is very important to be on the real level. You know, sometimes what we read in Shastra is not something we can practice right away. Right? We cannot practice. But to act artificially on that level is not very helpful, because on an artificial platform, you can't remain forever. You will fall down from there, because that is not your actual level. It is not sustainable. So even if we have these, some of these things that we like watching movies, it's so how do we really get rid of that mentality? First of all, to acknowledge that, yes, I have this bad habit or I have this weakness and this anartha is there. And then acknowledging it in front of the Lord, in front of Prabhupada and your spiritual master, that, I have this anartha. I don't want to do this, but I am tempted and I'm pulled towards this. So please help me. I don't want to do this, but please help me. So that is one thing. And second of all, realizing it actually, when you realize and you operate on the real level, then it makes you humble. It will make you humble that, oh my God, I'm not able to do this. So it makes you humble, which is always a very good position to be on. to know your real self. A lot of times, when, especially as you grow older in bhakti, there are a lot of people who are newer than you, and then they praise you. Oh, Prabhu, you are so good. Huh? Prabhu, you are almost a pure devotee. And sometimes it gets to our head, right? We start thinking that, yeah, I'm not bad, I'm pretty good. So to have a reality check always helps. It keeps you real, it keeps you humble, and then you can pray from a real platform, and you can pray for the real thing. Yeah. So it's very important to acknowledge that we are not where we are meant to be. We are not there. We like to gossip. We like to, chat with friends about nonsense which has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. So we have to realize our weakness and then pray for strength to overcome it. If we don't acknowledge and we think, yeah, this is what we should do, we'll be like, what schizophrenia is? Multiple personalities in one. So it will be like that you are actually something else, you're pretending to be something else, acting to be something else. So it's very, very important to be on the real platform, real self. That's where you make progress from. You cannot make progress from an artificial platform. So very important to acknowledge where you are at and then make progress from there. Okay? All right. So the impersonal conception of the supreme absolute truth as described in this chapter is recommended only up to the time one surrenders himself for self-realization. In other words, as long as one does not have the chance to associate with a pure devotee, the impersonal conception may be beneficial. In the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, one works without fruitive result, meditates and cultivates knowledge to understand spirit and matter. This is necessary as long as one is not in the association of a pure devotee. Fortunately, if one develops directly a desire to engage in Krishna consciousness in pure devotional service, he does not need to undergo step-by-step improvements in spiritual realization. Devotional service, as described in the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, is more congenial. One need not bother about materials to keep body and soul together, because by the grace of the Lord, everything is carried out automatically. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of devotional service. So, my dear devotees, we finish our section. This is the end of Unit 2. If anyone has any question, we can take that. Otherwise, I want to wish you all the best for your further studies. Yes, Jyoti.
Last question, Mataji, just one question I have.
No problem.
Like from the previous, it is from the previous verses, like
No problem.
the Brahmanas are the heads of the Supreme Lord and the Kshatriyas are his arms. So how it is divided, it is said. So, but it is also said no, that like it is not from birth. Like whosoever takes a profession, it can be categorized like that. But here it is said that Brahmanas are the head and the Kshatriyas are the arms. So how can we correlate both?
Yeah, so Krishna makes it very clear, Chaturvarnya Maya Srishtam, that I have created this Varnashram, right? And he makes it also very clear that it is Guna Karma Vibhagasha, that it is not by birth, it is by Gun and Karma, right? So when he talks about Brahmanas being my head, so he means in terms of Guna and Karma, not by birth, not by birth. And we see an example of this in Bhagavatam, first canto. Ashwathama, born to Drona, is referred to as Brahma Bandhu. He is not referred to as Brahmana because his guna and karma are not that of a Brahmana. Right? Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Prabhu?
Mataji, I do not have any question, but I wanted to express my gratitude and thank you to you. So
I'm very grateful because thanks to this teaching assignment, I get to read Bhagavad Gita every time or more thoroughly. So thank you.
Because it's been long that I and most of the students try to understand and learn Bhagavad Gita, but with your coming in with Unit 2, so this seems very easy. So with your blessings and grace, so we'll be able to understand it. And I'm really thankful. I did share your lectures with some of my fellow devotees as well. That if you want to hear Bhagavad Gita or understand Bhagavad Gita, do listen to this Mataji. She has vast knowledge and she'll be able to clarify all the road that you have. Thank you so much, Mataji. I'm really thankful.
Thank you. Actually, it is not to my credit at all. First of all, this 7 to 12 chapters, they are Bhakti Yoga. They are, they're relishable. If you are a Bhakti Yoga, this is what you'll relish. You'll not relish the first 6 chapters. So this comes naturally to all of us. So this is by Krishna's grace, by Prabhupada's grace, such beautiful purports that we relished this section. But thank you for your words of encouragement. Very kind. Okay, my dear devotees, wishing you all the best for your CBAs and OBAs and the rest of the course. And do it seriously, because when you do it seriously, you will see a major transformation of your character after Bhakti Shastri. You'll be a different person. You'll not be the same. Okay? Thank you. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Pranam. Hare Krishna, Pranam to all devotees.
Thank you.